Dear friends, welcome to this week's virtual drasha. This week we have the incredible privilege to read the double parashios of Acharei and Kedoshim. And I want to draw your attention to a beautiful pasuk in Parashas Kedoshim. The Torah says in Parak Yotes Pasuk Tezvav, chapter 19, verse 15, Lo sasu aval b'mishpat, literally do not pervert justice. Lo sisa pnei dav, lo seda pnei gadol, do not play favorites. So again, B'Pashtus, the Torah is talking about the Beis Din, to the Dayan, to the judges on a Beis Din, that when you sit in that courtroom, when you sit in that Beis Din, you have one sacred task. Adjudicate correctly, adjudicate justly. Do not pervert justice. How do you avoid the perversion of justice? Don't play favorites. Don't favor the poor person, don't favor the rich person. And then the pasuk ends off by saying, B'tzedek tishpot amisecha. Literally, again, with righteousness or with justice, you shall go ahead and judge your fellow. Now, the Gemara understands that that last phrase is a continuation of the previous part. For example, the Gemara says, what does it mean? B'tzedek tishpot amisecha, judge your fellow righteously or justly. So the Gemara says, if one of the litigants is standing, they both have to stand. One is sitting, they both have to sit. They both have to have the same amount of time to present their arguments. So the Gemara understands, B'tzedek tishpot amisecha, judge your fellow favorably or justly, is a continuation of don't play favorites. Do not favor one litigant over the other. Incredible. But then the Gemara goes on. The Gemara says, Davar acher, but another interpretation of B'tzedek tishpot amisecha, another interpretation of you should judge your fellow with justice or with righteousness. The Gemara says, Havegan es chavercha lekaf sechus. Give your friend the benefit of the doubt. Literally, again, the kaf sechus, if you can imagine, a kaf is like a scale or a weight or a measure. So if you can imagine, again, you have a scale, you have two sides, right? One is righteousness and one is iniquity or liability. Always judge your friend the kaf sechus. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Make sure that his side of righteousness is always heavier in your eyes than the side of liability and iniquity. Be dan lekaf zechus. Give people the benefit of the doubt. This is not a chiddush. This is something we all know. But I think we would agree that often this is probably one of the most difficult things. You know, there's easy ways to apply this. This is the classic case. I see my good friend Ruvain walking into a treif restaurant, an unkosher restaurant. I'm like, Papa, Ruvain, what happened to you? What's going on? Okay, so calm down. Maybe he's going to use the restroom. Maybe he's going to ask directions. I realize that is a dated example, asking directions. No, Waze, everything else, Google Maps. Okay, hey, you went to ask directions. You went to get a cup of coffee. You went to get a soda, whatever it might be. So be down the kaf sechus. But dear friends, are there not situations in life where we see people do things, we see people act in a certain way, say certain things, or they act or do certain things to us, and there's no silver lining in it? It is what it is. A person did something objectively wrong, objectively hurtful, objectively terrible. And yet we have this concept of being dan lekaf sechus, of giving people the benefit of the doubt. But how is there benefit of a doubt in a situation where what the other did is so clearly, unequivocally wrong? So perhaps you could say maybe being down the kaf sechus doesn't apply when someone is objectively wrong. But if you notice, the Gemara doesn't say that. There's a pasuk in the Torah, B'tzedek tishpot amisecha. Judge people righteously, judge people with tzedek, with righteousness, with justice. And again, have they done es chavercha lekaf sechus. Judge people favorably. Give people the benefit of the doubt. But how do you do that in difficult situations where clearly the behavior was so wrong? Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan something so incredibly beautiful. The Rabbi says, he quotes the pasuk from Tehillim. David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Od ma'at ve'in rasha. Now again, literally translated means a little bit more, right? A little bit longer, and there will be no evil. But Pashtus, David HaMelech is referring to the Messianic era. And he's telling us, Yidden, hold on. We've been waiting for Mashiach for so long, but Od Ma'at, just a little bit longer. Mashiach comes. Evil as we know it is going to be vanquished. Evil as we know it is going to be eradicated. Evil as we know it is going to disappear. Od Ma'at, just hold on a little bit longer. Ve'ein rasha. And ultimately the rishos, the evil in this world that we see that I have to contend with every single day, will no longer exist. But Rabbi Nachman says, that's incredible and that's beautiful, but there's another meaning to this as well. And the Rebbe says, in that little phrase, Od ma'at ve'in rasha, teaches us how to relate to ourselves and how to relate to others. The Rebbe says like this, all of us make mistakes. And I would say most of us, if not all of us, make some pretty big mistakes. And the greatest challenge in the aftermath of making a life mistake or a life failure is that you begin to look at yourself as a failure, as just like shivrei luchos, just broken. I'm just broken. I'm just broken. And sometimes, tragically, we look at ourselves as the sum total of our mistakes. What am I? I'm the guy who made this poor decision. I'm the guy who made this wrong turn. I'm the guy who missed this opportunity. And that's who I am. I'm the guy who messes stuff up because look at my track record. Look at everything I've done or I haven't done. And the Rebbe says, there's nothing further from the truth. Yeah, we make a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes definitely compromise us. But the Rebbe says, no matter how many mistakes you've made in life, no matter how much you've messed up, od ma'at, there's always a little bit more of me, ve'ein rasha, that's not corrupted, that's not evil, that's not bad, that's not broken. There's always a piece of me that is still spiritually intact, that is still holy, that is still beautiful, that is still incredible. And the Rebbe says that od ma'at, that little bit of me, that ein rasha, that there's no evil, that's what gives me the ability to rebuild. That's what gives me the ability to start over again. That's what gives you the ability to say, okay, I've messed up big time. But at the end of the day, I have still what I need. That od ma'at, that little bit, in order to restart the flame, in order to restart the process, in order to rebuild. All of us have an od ma'at ve'ein rasha. All of us have a little bit that's not corrupted. And the Rebbe says, the same way that I have to believe that for myself, I also have to believe that for the other. That when I see someone do something that's not good, and I see someone that does something hurtful, whether it's hurtful to me or hurtful to others, the Rebbe says the way I have to look at that person is, what you did is really bad. But that act of doing something bad does not make you in totality a bad person. Because I have to believe that you also have an od ma'at ve'ein rasha. You did something really bad, but there's still a piece of you that's beautiful. There's still a piece of you that's good. There's still a piece of you that is holy, that is spiritually luminescent. So the Rebbe says something amazing. Yes, there are times in life where you give people the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt means, I know you said this, but did you really mean it like that? Or I know you did that, but did you really mean to do that? Or your action looks like this. And there are times in life where I can come up with a proper positive narrative or spin on something that looks negative. But the Rebbe says in those moments, when someone who I care about, who I love, who is close to me, or someone who is not close to me, does something that is objectively wrong. There's no two ways about it. There's no silver lining. There's no positive explanation. My avoda is to look at that person and say, even though, you don't have to say it to them, it's more to yourself, to say, even though what you did was objectively wrong and bad, I believe with all of my heart that you still have good inside of you. That negative act does not define the totality of who and what you are. The same way that says Rabbi Nachman, that we have to apply that standard to ourselves, because if we don't apply that standard to ourselves, after the composite total of our mistakes in life, we're just going to curl up in the fetal position in a corner and rock back and forth, lamenting all of the terrible mistakes and the missteps and the failures we've had. But I believe for myself, od ma'at ve'ein rasha. I believe that I know all the mistakes I made. I know all the missteps I made. I know all of my failures. No one else knows my failures like I do. But despite that, I still believe od ma'at ve'ein rasha. There's a piece of me that's uncorrupted. There's a piece of me that's beautiful, that's waiting to come out. There's a piece of me that I could use to rebuild. Similarly, I believe that about myself, says Rabbi Nachman. I have to believe that about the other. And that, says Rabbi Nachman, is what it means to be dan lekaf zechus. Dan lekaf zechus could sometimes mean giving someone the benefit of the doubt because what I see is not necessarily what's true. And what I heard is not necessarily what was meant. And what I perceive is not necessarily what's actually unfolding. Sometimes that's true. But sometimes what I see is what's actually occurring. Sometimes what I hear is what's actually being said. And sometimes the other is doing something objectively terrible and bad. And in those moments, Rabbi Nachman says, pause, look at that person and just tell yourself, od ma'at ve'ein rasha. My friend, my spouse, my parent, my child, whoever it is, may have done something really terrible, but I'm choosing not to define them by the totality of that mistake, by the totality of this event, because I believe there's so much good inside of them. And even if I don't believe that there's so much good inside of them, od ma'at ve'in rasha. There's at least still some good inside that person. Rabbi Nachman says that's how we have to look at each other. That even in those moments when we mess up, when you look at the other, see the good. See the good. I can't whitewash the negativity. I can't go ahead and just pretend like what you said you didn't say, or what you did you didn't do. You said it. You did it. But I believe that this negative thing that you just did doesn't define you. Just like I failed and I still have good inside of me, when I see you fail, I have to believe that you still have good inside of you. Rabbi Nachman says that's what it means to be dam mekav schos. And the Rebbe actually says, if we could learn to do this by others, then in Meretz Hashem we could do it for ourselves. Rabbi Nachman posits that maybe it's easier to do this for other people than it is to do it for ourselves. So whichever way it works, whether it's easier for you to start with you and then apply that same standard to someone else, or it's easier to start with someone else and then apply it to me, the Rebbe says this is what we have to do. We have to learn to see the good in each other, even when we see the other fail so miserably. Even when the other's actions are clearly wrong, abhorrent, and even hurtful. I can't define the other by the negativity that they've perpetrated. I have to be able to see, or at least to believe, they're od ma'at ve'in rasha. There's more to you that's still good. There's more to you that's still beautiful. And if we could apply that same concept to others, we could apply it to ourselves as well. I know I fail every single day, but I believe that no matter how big and how bad the failure, od ma'at ve'in rasha, there's still more of me that's uncorrupted. I have it, and I have to believe that you have it. And dear friends, during this period of Sfira, where the students of Rabbi Akiva were lost, they did not exhibit honor one to the other, whatever exactly that means. Because these are great men, these were great men, the students of Rabbi Akiva. But one thing is clear, there was a breakdown in how they treated each other. There was a breakdown in how they interacted. There was a breakdown in how they viewed one another. This is the time of year to work on our relationships. People hurt us. People upset us. People offend us. That's just a fact of relationships, a fact of life. So you could choose to define your friends, your family, and your loved ones by their failures and by the hurt they visited upon you and write them off, or in those moments of stinging interpersonal pain, what I could say is what you did was wrong. It really was, and sometimes even inexcusable. But I know there's more to you. I know there's more to you. I know there's goodness, I know there's holiness, I know there's beauty, and that's what I'm gonna choose to focus on. Because when I look at you, I see your od ma'at ve'in rasha. No matter what you've done to me, I see at the end of the day, there's more to you that's beautiful, magnificent, and spiritually luminescent. And if we could apply that standard to others, then Emirat Hashem will be zocha to apply it to ourselves as well. That even in the aftermath of awesome life failure, we won't give up on ourselves. The same way we don't give up on others, we won't give up on ourselves. And I'll believe about myself, my od ma'at, no matter how badly I failed, there's more to me, a lot more to me. And if I could just dig down and find it in Emirat Hashem, there's no telling what I could accomplish. Od ma'at ve'in rasha, the secret to success in our interpersonal relationships and the secret to success for our personal development. Wishing everyone a good night of Shabbos and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.